Tonight, tens of millions of people are going to be sound asleep when this storm hits its worst stretch, and that right there is what makes this one so different from a regular bad weather day. We are tracking a squall line capable of producing a half dozen to a dozen tornadoes after dark. And most of those tornado warnings are going to go off while your family is in bed. In some cities tonight, you will go from a full blizzard to tornado sirens to single-digit temperatures all inside one 24-hour window. And I'm going to walk you through exactly what that means for where you live. Stick with me. Because at the 6-minute mark, I'm going to explain exactly why meteorologists are quietly calling Monday's setup for the East Coast one of the most unusual severe weather events they have seen in March in a very long time. And if you stay all the way to the end, I've got one thing about the rest of this week that almost nobody is talking about yet, and it is actually good news for a change. All right, let's get right into it, because this storm is already knocking on people's doors and there is no time to waste. Here's what really sets this system apart from anything we've seen in a good while. The very same low pressure that is burying Minneapolis in snow right now is the exact same system that is going to fire tornado-producing thunderstorms across the Deep South tonight. Same storm, same day, same low-pressure blizzard on the north end, tornado outbreak on the south end, and both sides are cranking up at the same time. That is the kind of setup that makes you sit up straight. And I want to make sure you understand both sides of it before the worst of it arrives. So, let's start with the winter side. Because for a lot of folks in the northern tier, the storm is already here and it is already serious. That low pressure has deepened to 989 millibars as it tracks across the Great Lakes, and it is going to keep intensifying as it pushes north toward Michigan through the rest of Sunday. On the northern edge of this thing, snowfall rates are hitting 3 to 4 inches per hour in the worst of it, and when you layer 50 to 60 miles per hour winds on top of those rates, you have got yourself a textbook. By the book blizzard. Minneapolis and St. Paul, you are right in the thick of it as we speak. And when the dust settles, or I guess I should say when the snow finally stops, you are looking at 12 to 18 inches of total accumulation on top of winds that have already turned the metro into a wall of white. St. Paul is sitting at 18 degrees right now with the storm still building. Add those wind gusts on top of that. And you are talking about conditions that are genuinely dangerous for anyone caught outside without shelter. Green Bay and Madison. You are in the zone where this storm is going to go absolutely haywire, with 2 to 3 feet of snow expected across central and northern Wisconsin before this is over. Madison is under a blizzard warning as we speak. 22 degrees, snow falling nonstop. And the forecast shows no meaningful let-up until late Sunday if you have not finished your preparations. That window is closing fast. Milwaukee is looking at the same whiteout conditions, 24 degrees, near zero visibility, and roads that are essentially impassable right now for anybody who does not absolutely have to be out there. Now here is the number in this forecast that I keep going back to, because it is genuinely hard to wrap your head around. Some isolated spots in the upper peninsula of Michigan, near Marquette, could see close to 50 inches of total snow before this storm is finished, and the models have been holding that number steady for 3 days straight, which tells you it is not a fluke. 50 inches is over 4 feet of snow, and Marquette is already getting hammered by 75 miles per hour wind gusts off Lake Superior. On top of the heavy snowfall, that combination makes travel or any outdoor activity genuinely life-threatening. Full stop. Rhinelander, Tomahawk, Iron Mountain, you are in that same shutdown zone, and emergency managers up there are not mincing words if you do not need to be on the road. Stay home. Detroit is sitting at 28 degrees under a full blizzard warning right now, 60 miles per hour. Gusts are already being reported. Power outages are spreading across the metro, and more outages are coming through the overnight hours. Chicago. You are in a tricky spot at 30 degrees, right on the rain-snow line. But here is the thing with mixed precipitation and 50 miles per hour gusts. Travel is going to be ugly regardless of what is actually falling from the sky. And then, right behind all of this, the bottom drops out of the thermometer. Temperatures across the upper Midwest are going to plunge by as much as 40 to 50 degrees inside a single 24-hour window. We are genuinely talking about the possibility of freezing temperatures reaching the Gulf Coast by Monday morning. And that is the kind of Arctic follow-through that catches people completely flat-footed every single time. Real quick, before we move on, drop your exact city in the comments right now and tell me what it looks like outside your window. Because I read every single one and I will come back with a specific breakdown for your area. All right, now let's shift to the southern side of this storm. And this is honestly the part of this forecast that has kept me glued to the models all morning. The Storm Prediction Center has issued a level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk for severe weather today covering Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, Missouri, Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and northeastern Texas. That is essentially the entire mid-Mississippi River Valley under a significant threat. And the primary danger with this event is probably not what you are expecting. Here is what I mean by that. Most people hear severe weather outbreak and they think tornadoes first, and yes, there will be tornadoes today. The models have been consistent about a half dozen to a dozen of them embedded in the squall line alone. But tornadoes are actually the secondary concern with this particular setup. The main event, the thing that is going to affect the most people across the widest area, is the wind. We are talking about a 45% probability of damaging winds within 25 miles of any location in the core of that enhanced risk zone. And inside that area, there is a hatched region where gusts are expected to exceed 75 miles per hour. 75 miles per hour, straight line winds that is hurricane force wind. Folks, the kind that snaps mature oak trees that have been standing for decades, takes down power lines across entire counties, and does serious structural damage to homes and buildings. The engine behind all of this is a low-level jet that is going to be screaming at 60, 70, maybe even 80 knots at about 4,000 to 6,000 feet above your head. That is faster than interstate highway traffic, just a single mile up in the air. And when a line of thunderstorms sits underneath that kind of wind energy, those storms act like a vacuum. They reach up, grab those winds, and drag them straight down to the surface. And that is exactly how you end up with 70 miles per hour gusts leveling entire neighborhoods in a matter of minutes. So here is the timeline you need to lock in. The main line starts firing around St. Louis, Little Rock, and northeastern Texas somewhere around 3 or 4 in the afternoon. By 5 or 6 o'clock Central Time, that line is stretching from East Texas near Longview all the way up to eastern Missouri. And from that point forward, the threat ramps up hard and fast. The danger window, the stretch where you absolutely need to be situationally aware and have your shelter plan ready, is from about 5 p.m. straight through to midnight. This is a nocturnal severe weather event, and I cannot stress enough how much that changes the equation. Nighttime tornadoes are significantly more deadly than daytime ones. You cannot see a tornado after dark. Your warning may come while you are in a dead sleep, and the time you have to get to safety shrinks dramatically. Memphis, you are in the bullseye for the late afternoon window, and if any discrete supercells spin up ahead of the main line near the Mississippi River Valley, a strong or even violent tornado cannot be ruled out for your area. Clarksville, Tennessee. You are sitting inside the highest risk corridor for this evening, and I want you to have your shelter plan sorted out before the afternoon, not while the sirens are already going off. That line sweeps east through Indianapolis, Nashville, Birmingham, and Cincinnati through the evening and overnight hours if you are anywhere in this corridor. You need a way to get alerts while you are sleeping tonight. Around 10 or 11 p.m., Chicago could be in one of the more dramatic weather transitions you will ever see, going from severe thunderstorm warnings to snow and freezing rain in the span of about an hour. And then through the early morning hours Monday, that damaging wind threat and those embedded tornadoes keep marching east through Birmingham, Chattanooga, Knoxville, Cincinnati, and on into eastern Ohio and western Pennsylvania. Nashville is at 58 degrees right now with a thick deck of clouds already building, and the wind starting to pick up tonight is going to be a whole different ball game. If you are in the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, or anywhere in that stretch from Memphis to Nashville to Louisville, drop your city in the comments and tell me what is going on in your neighborhood right now. Now here is where this forecast takes a turn that I genuinely think is going to catch a lot of people off guard, especially if you live east of the Appalachians. Because while Sunday is already a serious day for the Midwest and the South, the meteorological community has been quietly saying to each other that Monday could actually be the bigger deal, and the target for Monday is the East Coast. The Storm Prediction Center is already showing an enhanced risk for Monday stretching from South Carolina all the way through Pennsylvania, with a slight risk extending from northern Pennsylvania through Florida and up toward Buffalo. And I want you to hear this clearly. Severe weather is on the table as far north as New York City and southern New England on Monday and for the East Coast. That is genuinely rare territory. All right, this is the moment I told you about at the top of the video. And I want to explain this in plain language because it is actually a remarkable thing to see on the models. Think of the atmosphere above the East Coast on Monday like a river that has been building up behind a dam all winter, cold air piled up on one side, warm Gulf moisture on the other, and until now the dam has been holding. Monday is the day the dam breaks. The trough driving this system is going to maximize its energy output right as it crosses the East Coast, and the warm, juicy Gulf moisture that is going to be sitting on the other side of it is going to have dew points pushing into the upper 60s across Georgia, South Carolina, and the Florida Panhandle. Upper 60s dew points in March, that is August-level humidity, August-level storm fuel, arriving 4.5 months early, and it is going to overlap with wind energy at the same time and in the same place. That overlap, massive storm fuel on one side, enormous wind energy on the other, both converging on the East Coast at the exact same moment, is precisely the recipe that produces significant long-track tornadoes, not just wind damage and hail. The tornado ingredients across northern Georgia and South Carolina late Sunday night into Monday morning are spiking to levels that storm chasers and emergency managers use as a serious red flag, and this is not getting nearly enough attention from people outside the weather community. What worries me most is the possibility of discrete supercells developing in Alabama, Georgia, and the Florida Panhandle in the early hours of Monday morning. Picture a spinning top out in open space with plenty of room to wind up and build speed that is a discrete supercell versus a tornado inside a squall line, which is more like a spinning top squeezed inside a crowd. The ones with room to breathe are the dangerous ones, and that is the setup that is coming together across the southeast overnight. Washington, D.C. at 46 degrees today by Monday afternoon. You are looking at a severe weather threat that this city genuinely does not see very often, and you need to take it seriously. Raleigh at 66 degrees right now. Enjoy your Sunday, but do not let it lull you into thinking Monday is going to be more of the same. Richmond, Virginia Beach, Baltimore. The atmosphere on Monday is going to have the sky moving like it is running at double speed. And any storm that taps into that energy is going to be capable of doing real damage. The good news, and there is genuine good news here, is that Monday's severe weather is expected to wrap up mostly by sunset. So unlike Sunday's all-night grind, Monday has a clear end time. And one more thing to keep an eye on late Monday night into early Tuesday, there is a real possibility of snow flurries reaching as far south as Nashville, Kentucky, and even the outskirts of Atlanta as that Arctic air slams in behind the system. Now let's talk about what happens after the storms pass. Because the story absolutely does not end when the last thunderstorm rolls east. Right behind this whole system is an Arctic air mass that has been coiled up in Canada for weeks, and once the storm clears, that cold air is going to pour south like water rushing through an open floodgate. Temperatures in some areas are going to drop 40 to 50 degrees in a single day, and if you have never been through one of those swings, let me tell you, it is jarring in a way that most forecasts do not adequately prepare you for. Des Moines is already sitting at 28 degrees and feeling the leading edge of this cold, and the worst of it has not even arrived yet. Dallas-Fort Worth is at a pleasant 76 degrees today, but by Tuesday morning, you could be staring down a hard freeze, and that kind of temperature whiplash is exactly what bursts pipes, kills early spring plants overnight, and catches people who were just outside in shirt sleeves the day before. Atlanta is at a lovely 65 degrees right now by Monday night. Temperatures drop into the low 30s, and anything that has already bloomed early this spring is going to take a serious hit. Kansas City is at 42 and already getting the northwest wind by Tuesday morning. Wind chills in the metro could be in the single digits or below zero. Make sure your pipes are wrapped. Bring your pets and plants inside. And please go check on your older neighbors and family members who live alone. Because this kind of rapid cold snap is when vulnerable people get into real trouble. Now, complete 180. Because while all of that cold and severe weather is grinding through the eastern half of the country, the western half is living in an entirely different reality. Phoenix hit 101 degrees today. And that is not just hot, that is a broken historical record. The previous earliest date on record for Phoenix to hit 100 degrees was March 26, 1988. Today is March 15th. We shattered that record by 11 days. And that is not a statistical blip, that is a genuine, documented, first time in recorded history kind of event for the desert Southwest. The entire Phoenix metro is in triple digits right now. Tucson at 100 Mesa at 101, Chandler at 101, Glendale at 101, Gilbert at 101. The whole valley is cooking. And it is not just Arizona Riverside. California at 98, San Bernardino at 98, Los Angeles, running 95 to 96 in the city core with valley areas touching 100. Las Vegas at 96, Henderson at 96, the whole Nevada corridor running 30 to 40 degrees above the average high for this date. Sacramento just posted its highest temperature on March 15th in over 50 years, and Fresno and Bakersfield are right there with it. If you are anywhere in the Southwest this week, spring training games, outdoor plans, anytime outside, I want you to treat this exactly like the peak of July, because that is what your body is actually dealing with. Hydrate way before you feel thirsty. Get inside during the peak afternoon hours. And please check on elderly folks around you who may not realize how dangerous this heat is, especially if they are not used to managing it yet this early in the year. And here is the kicker on the heat. This is not the last of it. Record-breaking warmth is forecast to come roaring back to the desert Southwest by Thursday and Friday after a brief cool-down midweek. Meanwhile, and yes, there is a meanwhile, because apparently 4 simultaneous weather disasters was not enough for one weekend, Hawaii is dealing with its own serious emergency today. A Kona low has been sitting over the islands and dumping rain at a rate that has already put some areas on Kauai past 8 inches in 12 hours, and it is still coming down. Honolulu is under a flash flood emergency. Lihue is getting hammered, and mudslides are already being reported across low-lying areas on multiple islands. And here is the detail that kind of sums up everything about this weekend's weather across America up on the summit of Mauna Kea. That same system is dropping snow, so Hawaii is simultaneously dealing with flooding at sea level and blizzard conditions at the top of the mountain. If you have got family in Hawaii right now, pick up the phone, make sure they are off the roads, and make sure they are away from any areas that are prone to flooding or hillside runoff. All right, this is the thing I promised you at the very end, and I am genuinely happy to be able to tell you this. Once this storm complex clears the country by Tuesday, a strong ridge of high pressure is going to build and lock in, and that ridge is going to put the brakes on active severe weather for the next 5 to 7 days. After the craziness of this weekend, after the blizzard, the tornado outbreak, the East Coast severe weather, and the Arctic blast, we are actually looking at a relatively quiet stretch heading into next week. And honestly, we could all use the break. Now, that same ridge is also going to send that record heat back into the desert Southwest by late week. So the West is not off the hook entirely, but for severe weather, the pattern takes a real breather. Looking further out, that ridge begins shifting east by the final week of March, and when it does, the central and southern plains warm up significantly while the west coast flips to a wetter, cooler pattern. The Cascades in Sierra Nevada are going to pick up very heavy mountain snow in that late March window, and after a rough stretch for snowpack and water supplies out west, that is news worth celebrating. For the East Coast, temperatures stay below normal through mid-March before gradually easing back to seasonable levels toward the end of the month. Big picture takeaway, the pattern is not done being wild, but it is about to catch its breath, and that is a genuinely good thing heading into the work week. So, let me give you the bottom line on what to actually do right now, and I am going to keep this straight and simple. If you are in the blizzard zone Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, your window to move around safely is already gone, so stay put, stay warm, and let the storm do its thing. If you are in the Sunday severe weather corridor from Texas through the Ohio Valley, find your shelter spot right now before the afternoon and set up a way to get alerts while you sleep tonight. I am not trying to ruin your Sunday. I am trying to make sure you have a Monday. If you are on the East Coast from D.C. to the Carolinas, Sunday night is when you get your plan together, because Monday does not give you much warning time once it gets going. If you are in the Southwest, this heat is real, it is historic, and it deserves the same respect you give it in July. And for everyone. Everywhere in this country, charge your phone and your backup battery right now, because power outages from this storm complex are going to hit multiple regions at the same time, and you do not want to be without communication when warnings start dropping. Look, the people who come through storms like this fine are almost always the ones who knew what was coming and had a plan. The people who get caught out are the ones who figured it would not be as bad as everyone was saying and every single time. The storm does not care about that. So do me a favor if you know somebody in Memphis, Clarksville, Indianapolis, Raleigh, or any of these impact zones, send them this video right now. Because a heads up from someone they trust is worth 10 push notifications they swipe away. Drop your city in the comments. Tell me what is going on outside your window, and I will get back to you with a specific breakdown for your area. We are going to be live and tracking all of this, the blizzard tonight, the severe outbreak Sunday night, and the East Coast event on Monday, so make sure notifications are on so you do not miss a single update. Stay safe out there, stay smart, take care of the people around you. God bless, and we will see you in the next one.